This week's episode is brought to you by Crown Haven Wealth Advisors, your retirement reimagined. Coming up today on RetireSHIELD TV.
And then what are you doing to act ahead of time before it happens again? And then what happened was pensions got systematically dismantled, and it became a, oh my gosh, I'm saving for myself and I need to invest in the world's largest casino in order to create income later. And then somehow everybody seemed to forget that the purpose of investing was for income in retirement. And now you have a whole bunch of salespeople out there where their vested interest is to maintain your assets at risk, charge you a fee for that privilege, and not provide an income plan. How close are you to retirement? Are you retired already? Can you afford to have the family dog come in and knock over the dominoes?
Knowing people and building trust. Get on the right path to achieve your retirement goals with Casey Marx and the team at Crown Haven Wealth Advisors. Understand the process and challenges of retirement planning. Discover the keys to a successful retirement.
Hello and welcome to RetireSHIELD TV. I'm consumer advocate Morgan Patrick, and as always, I am joined by the founder and CEO of Crown Haven Wealth Advisors and creator of the RetireSHIELD Process, Casey Marx. And Casey is not only the author of Baby Boomer Retirement Bootcamp, he is also a retirement income certified professional as well as a certified financial fiduciary. It is so good to see you, Casey.
It's good to see you too, Morgan.
So today we are going to discuss the domino theory. So Casey, what exactly is the domino theory and how does it relate to our viewers and their retirement?
Well, it's a great question, and the reason that I use the domino theory as an analogy for retirement planning is because I think it's so relatable. So as a kid, my parents would be tired of managing me, and they'd put me in the living room.
Was that tough?
Yeah, I was a little bit of a rascal.
Gotcha.
They'd put me in the living room and they'd say, hey, Marx, put these dominoes together and have a blast, right? So I'd set all these dominoes up. I'd have this master plan of what they were going to do for me, right? And I'd put them, over tables and around lamps, and it would just be this beautiful concept that I would have. And inevitably, every single time, my best friend Greg would come over from next door, he'd knock on the door, the family dog Hambone would come through the living room and knock down all of my dominoes. So 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of time planning, right, because you're a young kid,
sure,
would just get crushed in a second. And this is very similar, unfortunately, to how folks are looking at their retirement portfolios. So I want you to imagine for a second that you've been working your entire life. You've saved 20, 30, 40 years. And the fundamental question is, what's going to be the next figurative dog that runs through the room to knock down your dominoes right before you're ready to push that final one down and see all of your hard work come to fruition? So I think it's a very appropriate analogy, and it's something that people can relate to.
Well, and it almost equates to, eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
If it's all sitting there and it's ready to go and the Hambone comes in,
yeah,
you're toast.
Yeah, you're in big trouble. And that's why the diagnostic process is so important in our planning process, in our trademarked RetireSHIELD process, because after we've begun to understand what it is that you want from your life, which is really the purpose of our relationship visit, it's to understand what matters to you and what we can do to help you achieve that and what we can control. So risk we're taking, fees we're paying, taxes, etc., inflation. Then we scrutinize the plan and we look at it over all of those important areas, from a secure income planning standpoint, from an investment management standpoint, from a tax planning standpoint, healthcare planning standpoint, a legacy planning standpoint. And imagine, if you will, 5 separate living rooms with different dominoes set up.
There you go.
And we're looking at it and going, okay, is the family dog going to come through and knock over this set of dominoes or this set of dominoes or this set of dominoes? And if there's a chance of that happening, we want to fortify ourselves around that. And that's why we've called our entire planning process our RetireSHIELD, because we quite literally are shielding you from all of the possible risks that could exist in retirement which ultimately gives you confidence. It gives you the ability to live the life that you want to live, to pursue your aspirations, your goals, the dreams, maybe the bucket list items that you've never experienced yet, with the confidence of knowing that you're going to be okay. And that's I think the greatest value proposition of all of this is the peace of mind that's created as a result of having a relationship with a trusted ally that also has the subject matter expertise to deliver on the promise. And so that's what we do for folks.
The importance of diversification, and I know that's an individual conversation you
100%.
have with clients.
Well, yeah, but diversification is a very important topic, and folks think that diversification happens through diversification in just one bucket.
Right.
And if you go to your traditional wealth manager or financial advisor, they'll say you're diversified if you have international exposure, domestic exposure, different types of credit exposure, etc. But the type of diversification we're talking about is asset location diversification. Because if you have that type of diversification that I kind of talked about briefly a second ago, and you're just in bucket number 3, that doesn't work for retirement planning. We experienced this in 2022. Interest rates go up, bonds go down in value. Credit markets seize up. That's a major problem for equities. Stores of value like gold can go up with inflation, or they could decline. There are things that, there are issues in the economic environment that we have yet to see happen. Those are called black swan events. We don't necessarily know exactly what's going to occur. So if we think we're diversified by being only in bucket number 3, we're not truly diversified. So while it's true that you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, and it's much better to be diversified the way I just described, even though it's not the perfect diversification method, rather than just being in like one stock, for example, it's much better to be diversified across different asset locations. Because there are different places you can put your money and they will do different things for you. So you got banks, insurers, and the market.
Sure.
And if you diversify in that way, not only does that give you, those tools give you different pros versus the cons that exist, like the bank might be safety and liquidity, the insurer might be safety and income, the market could be liquidity and better growth potential. But if you balance that properly, the overall risk goes down, the overall cost goes down, the income goes up, et cetera, et cetera.
When you think about it too, we got lulled to sleep with a huge bull market run for 12, 13 years, and you've got to understand that the market is going to go up and down and it will crash.
Well, yeah, and that was as a result of 0% interest rates that existed for basically, there were 0% interest rates that started in 2020. The Fed had to cut those rates. But we've had relatively easy monetary policy for going on 25 years. And what people need to understand is that's over. Like, that's not going to be the case moving forward. And so what does easy monetary policy create? It creates very cheap lending. It creates a lot of growth. It creates a lot of false profit. It allows people to take risks in the corporate world and also at a personal level. Well, when things tighten, what goes up must come down. And it's not necessarily that it's just going to come down once huge and go straight back up again. That's not how economics work.
In a nutshell, RetireSHIELD, how can it help?
RetireSHIELD is going to protect you against all of the things that could affect you negatively so that you can enjoy your life knowing that you're going to be confident.
Well, we're about to take a quick break, but if you want your own personalized RetireSHIELD plan or a free copy of Casey's book, Baby Boomer Retirement Bootcamp, make sure to call the number that's on your screen right now to talk with one of our representatives, or you can visit the website, RetireSHIELD.tv. Again, 2 easy ways to do this. Again, you can go to RetireSHIELD.tv and you can sign up for that appointment.
Do you know how much you're paying in fees or commissions with your current plan or advisor? What about unnecessary risk or future tax implications? Sit down with a fiduciary advisor at Crown Haven that can help you understand important concepts and so you can make the best decisions for yourself moving forward. We may even be able to answer questions you didn't even know needed to be asked. Take advantage of our complimentary portfolio diagnostic by calling Casey and his team of fiduciary advisors at Crown Haven today.
Hello and welcome back to RetireSHIELD TV. I'm consumer advocate Morgan Patrick, and as always, I am joined by the founder and CEO of Crown Haven Wealth Advisors and creator of the RetireSHIELD Process, Casey Marx. Now, Casey is a retirement income certified professional as well as a certified financial fiduciary. So, Casey, before the break, you were explaining that, like setting up a row of dominoes in perfect alignment, the stock market can, and at any point, kind of kick them over and kind of ruin your plans. Now, we've seen this time and time again in American history where this seismic impact, it can have on people that are near retirement. So what is wonderful, though, is that RetireSHIELD, the process that you have designed, and how it kind of shields families from these unforeseen market impacts, and it keeps them on a path to a stress-free and secure retirement.
Yeah, and again, I'll just reinforce the foundational reason that we're here in the first place. I experienced this in my own personal life, saw the devastation that can unfold as a result of poor planning. And having investment management is not the same thing as having a retirement plan. And so the reason that I'm here doing this is because I care deeply about the outcome for my clients. So if you want an outcome, if you want certainty of outcome, where are the people you talk to? In the state of Indiana, when people want certainty of outcome, they talk to Crown Haven. So to talk about kind of all those periods of time, which I don't think we really touched on in the last segment, but I think it's important to remind people, if you imagine those dominoes being set up and you're waiting, to experience the joy of all of your time and energy that you've put into setting those dominoes up in perfect alignment for the family dog to come in and knock them down.
Right.
Well, in our financial history, how many times has that happened in recent history? Well, we can go back, 30, 40 years, and we can say 50 years almost now, and go 1987. We can then go to the dot-com bubble.
Yep.
1999, 2000, 2001, 2002. We can go 2007 through 2009. At the end of 2012, there was a decline. I don't know that most people remember that. 2015, there was a hiccup. And this is really important for folks that are getting ready to retire, because when this happens, what does it do to you psychologically, right? Not only
big toll.
Yeah, not only from a numeric standpoint, but also psychologically. 2018, there was a decline. 2020, we had COVID, another black swan event. 2022 was a very difficult year, one of the worst performance in the stock market in over 40 years. So, I think what's important to grasp out of that is over the course of the last, say, 50 years, there's been umpteen times when the market has, just for whatever reason, whether it's a black swan event, whether or not it's economic policy, whether or not it's war, whether or not it's, geopolitical risk, whatever it is, it's knocked over the dominoes. And the question at a very fundamental level our clients need to be asking themselves, and prospective clients and viewers out there need to be asking themselves is, how close are you to retirement?
Right.
Are you retired already? Can you afford to have the family dog come in and knock over the dominoes? Most people can't. And then what are you doing to act ahead of time before it happens again? Because it's going to happen again. We just don't know when. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you when.
Right.
But I can tell you it's going to happen again. And on average, it happens, about every 7 years.
The importance of having a plan.
Yeah.
Working with a fiduciary firm that has your best interest right out in front.
Yeah.
Having that confidence as you move towards retirement. So I'm going to ask you, what's the definition of insanity?
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and predicting a different outcome. And we do this with our investments as a society over and over and over again. And the reason we do it as a society is because we've been drinking the figurative Kool-Aid since pensions were systematically dismantled. And if you were to ask, your grandparents how much they had in the stock market, they'd look at you like you were crazy because they didn't have to do it. You'd work for 40 years, 50 years, you'd retire, you'd get 60 or 70% of your pay in a gold watch, and then you'd get Social Security, which was never meant to be replacement income. It was meant to be an augmentation to your pension. And then what happened was pensions got systematically dismantled, and it became a, oh my gosh, I'm saving for myself and I need to invest in the world's largest casino in order to create income later. And then somehow everybody seemed to forget that the purpose of investing was for income in retirement. And now you have a whole bunch of salespeople out there where their vested interest is to maintain your assets at risk, charge you a fee for that privilege, and not provide an income plan. When what people need is certainty of outcome, which is why we created our RetireSHIELD to begin with.
Tell you, and just having that that warm and fuzzy that I like to call it.
Yeah.
You know, as you move towards retirement, knowing that you've started down the path, you're walking, and you're walking with someone and a firm that does this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You're not showing up for a trip without a map.
Well, and that's a great point to make. It's like, you know, how do you find the gold at the end of the rainbow without a map to get there? But one thing that I want to make a point of here is that, you know, we didn't have our firm, you know, a lot of people ask us, like, how long have you been around? Like, I experienced the financial crisis firsthand watching my mom lose over 50% of her portfolio in a blink of an eye, and it jolted me into action. And over the course of the last 12 years, we have built a firm that rivals the big box firms. And how we've done that is by filling a very real need that exists for the majority of people out there. So what we're providing to people is incredibly powerful. You don't just, any business owners out there know this, it's very difficult to create a business, run that business effectively, and build it, and then compete with the big boys. The reason we're able to do that, the reason we're around, the reason we're thriving, the reason we're growing is because of the value proposition. It's because we're solving the issues every day for people, and that word gets around. And that's how we've grown.
Tell you, it's RetireSHIELD, and I guess brass tacks, get down to it. How is this going to help me?
Well, how it's going to help you is it's going to give you certainty of outcome. But before it even gives you certainty of outcome, you're going to know exactly how you're going to get there. And one of our core values, well, our first core value is to ensure that you understand the plan, right? We're going to treat every human being as a human being. You deserve transparency. You deserve to understand exactly what we're doing and why, and then to have a personalized plan built for you based on who you are. So you're going to get the certainty of outcome. You're also going to understand exactly why it is we're using the tools we're using. And that's honestly my dream, is for my clients to be able to tell me exactly what it is we're doing, why we're doing it, and be on the same page as me. Because when we get to that point, that's when you get the phone calls when 2022 happens and people are calling you and thanking you, or when COVID happens. And, you know, we're changing people's lives.
RetireSHIELD, we're putting it right on the table. So with that, we're about to take a quick break. But before we do, I wanted to remind you to join the thousands of Hoosiers that have already shielded their retirement with a personalized RetireSHIELD plan. Our lines are always open, so call the number that is on your screen and talk to one of our representatives right now, or you can visit our website. That website is RetireSHIELD TV. Again, that's RetireSHIELD.tv for your own personalized RetireSHIELD plan and for a free copy of Casey's latest book, Baby Boomer Retirement Boot Camp.
Do you hear that? That's me enjoying my retirement, traveling around the world to play golf where I want, when I want, with whomever I want. Because years ago, I rolled over my IRA with the help of the local, independent, and trusted fiduciary team of advisors at Crown Haven.
Memories with Grandpa.
My first job.
My fourth job.
Crazy road trips.
Our first date. Meeting our son.
Exploring our world.
Our world. Family and friends.
our special song.
Secure your retirement by meeting with your local, independent, and fiduciary advisor at Crown Haven. Take advantage of your complimentary relationship visit by calling Casey Marx and the team at Crown Haven today.
Hello, and welcome back to RetireSHIELD TV. I'm consumer advocate Morgan Patrick, and as always, I am joined by the founder and CEO of Crown Haven Wealth Advisors and creator of RetireSHIELD Process. It's Casey Marx. And Casey is a retirement income certified professional as well as a certified financial fiduciary. And before the break, Casey, you were discussing, well, the analogy of setting up a row of dominoes to illustrate how the stock market can easily kind of ruin your plans. And this has been repeated over time in America. So we know it's in our history, and it can have a significant impact on those that are approaching retirement. So that being said, your RetireSHIELD process is the solution that shields families from unexpected market effects and also guaranteeing them a secure and stress-free retirement.
That's correct.
So let's get some questions. How about that? So here's one from a viewer. And remember, you can ask Casey your retirement questions by going to RetireSHIELD.tv and filling out that TV question form. So first question is Matthew. Indianapolis is his location. All of my net worth is tied up in real estate and through rental properties that I own. As I am entering retirement, I am wanting to transition out of real estate and create income from the proceeds. Where would you recommend I place my funds?
Matthew, I want to thank you for the question. You're like many of our clients that have been heavily involved in real estate over the past decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, and now they're looking for a source of passive residual income that can maintain their standard of living in retirement with maybe a little bit less time and energy involved, so you can actually spend your time on what matters most to you. Having said that, there are multiple ways that you can generate income in retirement. At Crown Haven, what we like to do is we like to use bucket number 2, our secure income bucket, to do that. What that means is we're going to be using tools that guarantee the safety of your principal, allow you to achieve growth on an annually compounded basis without any risk of loss of principal, reduce your fees on management significantly that you would pay elsewhere, and create that guaranteed outcome that you're looking for. Having said all of that, you got to be very careful prior to actualizing the sale of those properties that we're taking into consideration the tax implications of that, which is why it's so important to be working with a fiduciary advisor that understands how all of these different components to your retirement have ripple effects on the other components. So that is also why we have in our trademarked RetireSHIELD process included advanced tax planning, because we want our clients to feel the confidence of knowing that not only do we have the ability to secure their retirement, but we also have the ability to help them with all of these other matters and coordinate with the respective professionals that are able to assist them in that way as well.
Question and answer, always interesting. You get to hear what people are going through. Just remember, too, that in the retirement planning situation, your situation is going to be unique, so make sure your plan is just as custom. And again, we'll tell you more about RetireSHIELD coming up. So Tracy in Zionsville is asking you this. I recently inherited accounts from my parents who owned only one stock in that company that they worked for. That's where it was. And they told me to never sell it. Should I just hold on to the stock, or are there other investment options that could be better?
Well, Tracy, I respect where you're coming from with that question. Whenever you inherit money, it's always an emotional thing as well as a financial decision to make. And if your parents believed that much in the company that they were working for, which most people do, it can be even that more difficult to want to sell that stock. I can't recommend whether or not you should buy or sell a stock to you right now. What I would say is we get together and we have a relationship visit and then do a diagnostic on the portfolio to determine if it's in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish for yourself, because your life is totally different than what your parents were trying to do. Having said that, at a very basic level for the rest of our viewers, whenever you own a stock and it's the same stock of the company that you work for, you have significant employer risk. And employer risk is essentially, let's say you have a pension from an employer, you own stock in that same employer, and you're employed by that employer. Well, what happens if the employer gets into trouble? The pension can be at risk, the stock value can go down, and you can lose your job. So that is like the quite literal definition of having all of your eggs in the same basket. It's usually not advised. It's usually as a result of investing by default. And it's something that we really try to work with folks on diversifying themselves so that there's not so much risk in any one part of their portfolio.
We are in the middle of question and answer. And next up, let's go to Avon. Gary is there. Here's the question. I am 10 years out from retirement and have only saved in my 401k and since I start. So I have saved 15% of my income each year, so that's good, and right up until now. And I am wondering if my savings plan is enough. Also, whether or not I should be saving in other investment accounts.
Gary, you're asking a wonderful question here, because I think what you're trying to get at is, are there better investment options for me? And also probably asking from a tax perspective too. And the problem that people are going to run into with these 401ks, which are fantastic, by the way, you should be maxing out your 401k up to the match that you're getting because that's free money. And quite literally, since the dissolution of pensions, it's the only option for a lot of people. The downside of the 401k is that from a tax perspective, if you've been saving in just the traditional component of the 401k, which has been only available to folks, been the only thing available to folks rather, until recent history, what that amounts to is that you've got a huge tax deferred plan that when you retire is going to be used to create income for you and is going to be taxed at your current income tax rate. So very important to have a plan in place to strategically reduce your taxes on income. That's one of the things that we do at Crown Haven. In addition to that, investment options can be significantly more diversified outside of an employer plan. Unless you have a self-directed brokerage option, which could give you access to other investment options, it's much better to try to individualize that for your unique needs. That's something else that we will help you do. So what I would recommend is that you reach out to us. We set up a relationship visit. We get to know you, what you're trying to do. I'll sit down with you. We'll figure it all out, then we'll map it all out.
Starts with a conversation, folks. Well, that's all the time we have for today. We'll be back next week, but if you are looking for peace of mind in your retirement, do not wait. Remember, our lines are open 24/7, so you can call the number that's on your screen right now, or you can visit RetireSHIELD.TV for your free copy of Casey's book, Baby Boomer Retirement Bootcamp, or to have a personalized RetireSHIELD plan created for you by Casey and his team. Again, the website to go to is RetireSHIELD.TV.